No human could defeat him, yet one woman brought the strongest man in the land to his knees. His name was Samson, and from the day he was born, his life was surrounded by prophecy, purpose, and power. Before he ever took his first step, it was declared that he had been chosen by God for a special calling. He was set apart from others, marked for a destiny greater than himself. And as he grew, it became clear that something extraordinary rested upon him. Samson became a man unlike any other. His strength was beyond reason, beyond explanation, beyond fear. Men trained for war could not stand before him. Enemies who marched in numbers scattered when they saw him. Stories of his power spread through villages, through markets, through royal halls. Mothers warned their children about him. Kings whispered his name with concern. He was a one-man army, a living mystery, a force no human could overcome. But history has taught us something many times. The greatest dangers in life do not always come from swords, armies, or enemies standing at the gate. Sometimes they come dressed in beauty, speaking softly, smiling gently, and entering through the door of the heart. And that was how Samson began to fall. Though he was mighty in battle, Samson was still human. He had emotions. He had desires. He had weaknesses hidden beneath all his strength. He could break chains with his hands, but he could not always control the desires within him. He could defeat enemies around him, but he struggled with the battles inside him. Then Samson met a woman named Delilah. She was beautiful in a way that captured attention the moment she entered a room. Her presence was calm, elegant, and impossible to ignore. Her voice was soft. Her eyes were warm. Her smile could disarm suspicion. She knew how to make a man feel seen, heard, and wanted. Samson, who had shaken nations, was shaken by affection. He fell deeply in love with her. What Samson did not fully understand was that not every smile carries loyalty, and not every embrace carries truth. The rulers of the Philistines had watched Samson for years with fear and frustration. They had tried to defeat him by force, and they had failed. They had sent men against him, and they had failed. They had used violence, and they had failed. So they turned to something more dangerous than violence. They turned to manipulation. They went secretly to Delilah and offered her wealth if she would uncover the secret of Samson's strength. Silver was placed before her. Influence was promised. Reward beyond comfort was guaranteed. All she had to do was gain the trust of the strongest man alive and betray it. She agreed. And so began one of the most dangerous battles Samson would ever face, because this battle did not come with weapons in the hand. It came with questions on the lips. Delilah approached him gently. There was no anger in her voice, no threat in her tone, only sweetness. She asked him where his great strength came from. Samson did not answer truthfully at first. Perhaps he suspected something. Perhaps he thought it was harmless. Perhaps he enjoyed the game. He gave her false answers, and each time she tested them. Each time enemies were prepared nearby. Each time he escaped. But Delilah did not stop. Day after day, she returned with the same question. Night after night, she pressed him again. She mixed affection with pressure, tenderness with accusation. She made him feel guilty. She made him feel that honesty was the price of love. If you truly loved me, you would tell me. Those words have trapped many people. Samson, who could resist ropes, bars, and soldiers, slowly began to lose ground to persistence. His body was powerful, but his judgment grew weak. His heart became tired. His discernment became clouded. The repeated pressure wore him down. Eventually, he gave her what no enemy had ever been able to take from him: the truth. He told her that from birth he had been set apart to God, and that no razor had touched his hair. His hair was not magic, but it was a sign of the covenant connected to his calling. He told her that if it were cut, his strength would leave him. In that moment, Samson handed over more than information. He handed over trust. That night, Samson lay with his head in Delilah's lap. It was a picture of comfort, intimacy, and peace. He rested in the place that would become the place of betrayal. He closed his eyes beside the woman he loved, never realizing that love without truth can be deadly. As he slept, Delilah called for a man. Quietly, carefully, lock by lock, Samson's hair was cut away. Then she cried out that the Philistines were upon him. Samson awoke and rose as he had before, expecting another easy victory. He assumed strength would still answer when called. He assumed yesterday's power guaranteed today's protection. He assumed he could play with danger and remain untouched. But this time, nothing happened. The strength that once shook gates and crushed armies was gone. For the first time in a long time, Samson stood weak. The enemies rushed in. They seized him, bound him, mocked him, and dragged him away. The man who once broke chains now wore them. The man who once inspired fear now became a trophy. The man who once moved freely now stumbled under guard. Then came one of the darkest moments of his life. They blinded him. The warrior who once saw enemies from afar was forced into darkness. The strong man who once walked proudly was led like a captive. The mighty name that once caused fear became a source of entertainment to those who hated him. They placed him in prison. There, in pain, silence, and humiliation, Samson had something he had not had in a long time. Time to think. No cheering crowds. No victories. No distractions. No pride. Just reflection. He had lost his freedom, his strength, his sight, and his dignity. But perhaps for the first time, he began to see clearly. Many people only understand what truly matters after losing what they took for granted. Samson learned that strength without discipline can destroy a person. He learned that gifting without wisdom is dangerous. He learned that the wrong relationship can do what no enemy ever could. He learned that private weakness can bring down public greatness. But the story does not end in prison. Because while Samson sat in chains, something began to happen quietly. His hair started to grow again. Slowly, silently, strand by strand. It was more than hair returning. It was hope returning. It was a reminder that failure is not always final. It was a sign that mercy can still reach people in their lowest places. But the story does not end in prison. Because while Samson sat in chains, something began to happen quietly. His hair started to grow again. Slowly, silently, strand by strand. It was more than hair returning. It was hope returning. It was a reminder that failure is not always final. It was a sign that mercy can still reach people in their lowest places. One day, the Philistine rulers gathered in a great temple to celebrate their victory over Samson. They praised their false gods. They laughed at the man they had conquered. They brought Samson out to mock him before the crowd. Blind, weakened, and led by the hand, he was placed among the pillars of the temple. To them, he looked finished. But some people mistake brokenness for uselessness. Samson asked to be placed where his hands could touch the pillars that supported the building. Then, from the depth of pain and humility, he prayed. He asked God to remember him one more time. Not for pride, not for applause, not for fame, for one final act of purpose. Strength returned. With everything left inside him, Samson pushed against the pillars. Stone groaned. Dust fell. The ground trembled. The great temple began to collapse. In one final moment, the man who had fallen through weakness rose through surrender. The building came down, and the enemies who mocked him were destroyed. Samson died that day, but he did not die defeated. His story became a warning to the strong, a lesson to the gifted, and a hope to the broken. Because no human could defeat him, but one woman did. Yet even after betrayal, failure, blindness, and chains, God still gave him one final victory. And that is why Samson's story is remembered to this day. Not just because he was strong, but because even after a terrible fall, mercy still found him. Thank you for staying with me till the end of this story. If this touched your heart, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share. Here on World Bible Stories, we bring you powerful stories like this every time. See you in the next story.